This is a presentation of the Sports Source Digital Network, presented by Hearthside Bank.
Welcome into the Sports Source Digital Network. I'm John Pennington, joined by John Wilkerson. Good to see you again, back from a baseball tournament. Sorry it ended soon, but a little sooner than you'd hoped, but still welcome back.
Appreciate that.
And right over here, VFL Mike Stowell. We've lured him in from the mid-state.
Glad to be here. Glad to be with my man, John Wilkerson.
I actually met you at your bachelor party.
Yeah.
Yeah. And once we,
And the friendship blossomed.
that's
from
right.
there.
Once the strippers cleared.
Once we got out of jail.
Once we got the cops to let him go, we became friends. Yeah.
There you go.
Thanks to both of you for being here. I appreciate it. We're going to talk today about Joey Aguilar and the fact that so many people are showing blind faith in Joey Aguilar. I have no idea. Joey Aguilar may be spectacular. There are people out there, there are knowledgeable people who've watched his game tape and say, oh, going to be an upgrade over Nico Iamaleava. He's going to be an upgrade. Maybe. But I don't put blind faith in pretty much, maybe the two of you. I'll put blind faith in the two of you, but I don't put blind faith in many people. I'm amazed that any time we say anything questioning, well, you get the quarterback situation, the comments pour in and the emails I get that are, Joey's going to be fine. Joey Swags does this. Joey Swags does that. And I'm like, you guys hadn't heard of his name before April.
Yeah.
So the buy-in, is that just something fans do? For years you still do radio, Sports Animal on 6 to 9 in the morning. You've dealt with fans with phone calls and text messages and everything for years. Is that just something fans do? They just buy into whoever Tennessee signs and that's it?
I think you're looking at the difference between we didn't need him anyway for the one that departed, and he's the one that wants to be here, along with those that are already here. So when you've got McIntyre and Merklinger, I think there's support for the youngsters, but knowing that you need a veteran quarterback in all likelihood because you have just a handful of snaps between the two of them in terms of those who are going through the spring game, I just think that here's somebody who came towards the opportunity in Knoxville, and that's why the support's there. It's like he came here to play and to win with the University of Tennessee.
He wanted to be here where the other guy didn't.
Correct.
Yeah, so it gets him more love. Mike, you a little surprised by the complete and total buy-in? This is a guy who UCLA looked at Joey Aguilar and they said, yeah, we'd rather have Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they're wrong. Could be wrong. In this system, Aguilar may be far better than Nico. But for fans to not see that side of it, they only see he's our guy. Are you a little surprised that it's been as glowing a reception, or
No.
do you agree with John?
I think John's on the right page. Remember, you think back when you have a buddy that had a girlfriend that left your buddy, right? You didn't like her, and the new girlfriend's like, I like her a lot better, right?
Yeah.
Because you just ditched my buddy, and now my his girlfriend's a lot better. I think it's kind of one of those situations.
I would immediately hit on my buddy's ex-girlfriend.
Of course you would. So I see it as one of those things where, okay, you didn't want us. You want to be one of us. That's great. And I do think there's a lot of cautioned optimism that the fans shouldn't probably have because we just don't know what we got, right?
Yeah.
You look at, he made leaps and bounds, junior college, did well at App State, really grew the second year. Look, is that expected?
Well, his numbers went down the second year because the team got worse. He lit up his first year, but still.
He continued to get better with his percentage completions, all those things. So, he could do that much better. It's like, dude, no offense, but playing the competition that App State played versus what you're going to be facing.
Sunbelt, baby. Come on.
8 games out of the year you're facing SEC along with the Syracuse and everybody else. You're going to be challenged. And so there's a lot of optimism, but we'll see how long that optimism lasts. If he comes out and he doesn't do well, people will turn on him real quick. I think it's one of those things. They're building him up in their mind because Tennessee has really been on a high rise. They're really moving up the ladder. They don't want to face the reality that we're taking a step back just because of Nico taking off and then bringing in Aguilar. It can be one of those situations where they have a lot of hope in him, but that's a pretty big set of shoes to fill, not from a Nico side, but from a fan expectation.
So when I look at my teams, my favorite pro teams or whatever, I tend to look at, okay, here are the things he does well. Here are the things he doesn't do well. And I try and be even keeled about it. I don't know, maybe that's just the media side of it. Because a lot of fans don't look at it that way. They look at it as, oh, he's wearing the orange. He'll be great. And screw you for saying he won't be, for questioning whether he will be or not. I'm just not built that way in the blind faith of a fan. Do you guys ever find that where, oh no, he's now signed with the Broncos. This guy's a guaranteed Hall of Famer. I know you. The answer is no. Do you think that's just the media that beats that out of us?
Well, I think for the most part, you always want there to be a new addition to be optimistic, that it is going to be a step in the right direction. And I do think that there are numbers that you can point to and tape, video, whatever you want to call it, that supports his ability to play and to succeed. And at the same time, there are the numbers that tell you that for a program, or I should say an offense, that really values protecting the football, that could be an uphill climb. And at the same time, you mentioned that Appalachian State took a big step back last year. We've seen quarterbacks before that feel and know if there's a play that's going to be made, I'm going to have to make it. So you go past the red line that would be just a warning to, I've got to thread this needle, otherwise we're just going to lose.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing, too, that you said it many, many years ago in your wisdom, and I was on one of the call shows with you, and you were talking about fanatics. Why is it a fan? A fan is short for fanatics. They're fanatic about something, and so they tend to get a little bit skewed in their opinion or their thought process. But again, people don't see things. You've seen enough to know. You see the media side. I see things through the lens of more of a film. Like I'm watching film. It's a different story, right? It's like, okay, this guy has his limitations. There are things he can and cannot do. And we saw those with Nico. It's like Nico can't maybe do some things that he needs to do. He doesn't process quickly. You could see it. You could see it in his head. You could see the dial spinning. And so, will fans be able to post and see that and be able to recognize that and soon enough, if he can or can't do that, or he may step in and take off and power to him. I think the coaches are smart enough to know, here's his strengths, here's his weaknesses. We're going to play to his strengths so that we don't expose him. Yeah,
the hope is, and I'll get back to the word hope in a second, but you want, if you're looking at Aguilar and you're worried about the interceptions, which 24 in 2 years, it's not great. But I've seen a lot of people push this away. I've said it myself. You go back through Josh Heupel's career, he's never had a quarterback hit double digits in interceptions. When we had Justin Hamilton, former Virginia Tech defense coordinator, on our show, who he'd been on the team with Hendon Hooker there at Virginia Tech, of course, watched him in practice, watched him in games, and I was bragging on Hooker for only having 2 interceptions or 3 interceptions at that point in the season. He said, it's the system. I said, yeah, but look at what Hooker's doing. He's like, it's the system. So the system should help Aguilar bring those interceptions down. And you make a great point that there's a difference between, he tries to do too much and he has to try to do too much. And it might have been a situation where he was having to try to do too much at App State last year. What are your thoughts on bringing in a guy this late in the game, Mike?
Well, so first of all, everybody's like, oh, I wish Nico well. No, I don't. I don't. Seriously, I'm a guy that I played at Tennessee. I gave my all for Tennessee, and there's a lot of people that wore orange over that. And this cat sticks around through spring ball, takes all the reps at number 1. Last day, I'm out of here, knowing that he was out of here, right? So you turned your back on me. I hope you get hit on a bus on the way out, right? That's the true belief of it. So
that's the hope part.
That's
hope to get.
I believe, I believe he's going to get his rear end had into him at UCLA, and I hope he does, and I believe he will. But overall, bringing him in like you did, not knowing who he is with Aguilar, it's going to be a challenge. You got to put him in the right places. You got to allow him to do the things that are going to play to his strengths. But like you said, nobody knew who he was. Nobody was really going after him other than UCLA. But then again, Hendon Hooker, I don't know who was after Hendon Hooker in the portal. And all this,
nobody was jumping up and down around here when Hendon Hooker signed.
I trust Heupel's eye for talent and quarterbacks and seeing what he can and can't do. So we'll see about that.
At what point does that change?
And trust in him?
Well, he had Hooker and Milton, and he went with Milton first. Hooker was clearly the better guy. Then he gets Milton in there. Okay, he gets about as much out of Milton as I think you can.
Sure.
Then we all thought, okay, he's got this star in Nico Iamaleava, and we're all sitting here going, well, he stunk. At what point, if Aguilar or Merklinger don't take off, at what point? And look, I'm a believer, not a hoper. I'm a believer in Josh Heupel too. But at some point, as the math comes in, as the votes continue to come in, you're looking at the election. It's changing a little here. I would be wondering, okay, if these guys don't hit, maybe it's not as easy just to plug and play quarterbacks into this system as I initially thought it would be.
Yeah, and it's clearly it's not. You don't bring some guy in and you let him be a quarterback in this system and expect him, Hendon Hooker, and he had to have several games under his belt before he stepped into the role. And he was fighting Joe Milton for that. I do think that he does, again, it's kind of like I'll message you when I see something with an offensive line. It's like, oh, he just did this wrong. And you're like, you see things, right?
Yeah.
And those are the kinds. That's why I trust Josh Heupel and his judgment to say, okay, this guy does this feat right. He makes a throw. He sees the field. That's where it needs to go. He's accurate. I got all these things. Now, developing a team around him, that's still a big challenge to do. So, yeah, you make a great point of, okay, does everybody fill in this place with him? Can his limitations be overcome by the strengths? And I think we clearly saw we had a receiver core this last year that Nico, if he had better receivers, he would do better because he had receivers who would catch the ball, hang on to it. But you kind of had a double negative going on there.
Well, and we'll close it there, John. I'll let you finish up. I would feel better about Aguilar or Merklinger or whoever taking over if this were a veteran offense, a proven offense. Instead, I've seen Lance Hurd for a year. Mike Matthews caught a whopping 7 balls last year, and he's your best returning receiver, really. Chris Brazel's back, but he had so many drops. Now, hopefully, he goes through the Jalen Hyatt car wash and comes out a Biletnikoff winner. We saw Hyatt have drops all over the place, and then the next year, boom. But a lot of question marks all over that offense. There's not a lot proven. That makes it tougher for me to go all in on Joey Aguilar. It may all come together, but there's a lot of stuff you're having to hope all comes together.
I just hope the Pacific is as beautiful as I imagined it in my dreams. Can't wait to see my friend Andy. But you're right. I mean, there are things. It would be much easier if you had an established offensive line. If this were to happen, it would have been better suited for Tennessee to go through this last year than this year because you would have had Dylan Sampson. You would have had a veteran offensive line, although it did not meet the expectations in terms of they didn't get to benefit from all the experience. Some guys were good, but boy, there were some that's like another penalty.
Yeah.
Why not just hold your water? But without a doubt, those are all fair questions because where 2 years ago it was your secondary that got hit the hardest by portal defections, this year it's your receiving core. And so while there are options and there is potential, it all comes back to hope. And so he's probably going to be the guy that has to bring it all together as opposed to him being the last piece to a puzzle.
I think for those people out there who hasn't grasped this yet, it's Aguilar's job to lose. It's a competition, but somebody's going to get the first rep in the competition. It's going to be Joey Aguilar's, my guess. So people need to adjust to that, I think. I'm not saying Merklinger and McIntyre don't have a shot, but you've got a guy who's starting a little bit in the lead, I believe.
Yeah, well, Mike said it earlier. Josh Heupel, I think, has been working to look at what his strengths are, to tailor exactly how he would like to initialize the attack. And then he's going to have, in all likelihood, every single opportunity to make the job his. I think there will be a line in the sand that if he hasn't shown an opportunity and ability to get everything buttoned down, then I do think that there would be perhaps who gives you the best chance to win.
Sure.
But I do think he will have every single opportunity to go out there and show that he can compete and succeed in this system.
He is the leader in the clubhouse, I would say, because you've got Merklinger, who's been a backup. You've seen what he does, and it's like, okay, I got to go get somebody else, or I can't go try and pick. This is my best option right here, right now, because I'm not sure this is the solution. He could continue to grow, but I think Aguilar's my best plug and play for success right now.
There are all these guys who, the one thing you hear about Merklinger is he's not ready. He's not ready yet. Inside the program, they don't believe he's ready. Okay, fine. I remember, however, when Jay Colquitt went down, Todd Hilton was the starter for a couple of weeks. People didn't think Peyton Manning and Brandon Stewart were ready. But the more you played them, the more you realized, oh, okay, I guess they are ready. So the idea that, well, it can't be Merklinger. You've got different factions. There's the group that's like, it's not Aguilar, it's Merklinger. And the other people like Merklinger. I saw him in that scrimmage that we called a spring game, and he didn't look great. So he's not the guy. And it's like, well, he may be the guy. Oh, he's not ready. Sometimes you don't know who's ready. We talked earlier with Ollie Lane, who was talking about the fact that just going by practice, Joe Milton was the better quarterback. In a game, in the nooker was the quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see how this thing plays out down the road. But I do think Aguilar's your leader, and then it would probably be Merklinger. McIntyre would be your third option, who may be the most talented of the three, but he's just young and very, very thin at this point.
Yeah,
so.
He's got to put on some weight. He's got to get. I think he will do well. I think he's a good quarterback, and they got somebody. But thus is the world of transfer portals and everything else now. You don't have that depth that you're accustomed to.
No, and some people took shots at Josh Heupel for not having a better. He doesn't have a better system. He doesn't have a better backup plan when Nico's leaving. It's like, who does?
Right.
Aside from what they've had at Texas the last couple of years, with a Manning sitting there with all the money in the world who doesn't need to transfer, who's also getting Texas money, there aren't many schools that have the backup quarterback anymore. So, Mike Stowell, VFL, thanks for coming in here. John Wilkerson, thanks for meeting with us. Be sure to click the like button, hit subscribe, do the notify thing, leave a comment. Tell us if you're Team Aguilar, if you're Team Merklinger, Team McIntyre. Tell us your definition, hope versus belief. We'd like to hear it, and we'll see you next time on the Sports Source Digital Network.